to continue trying to reach a compromise there. Which of all the different options on the table would affect who the most? Gene Marks of the Marks Group and columnist for the New York Times and Forbes magazine is here tonight. Hey, Gene.
Hey, Joyce. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good.
Well, first of all, an overhaul of the tax code. We hear closing loopholes will really affect the rich, but what about the middle class, the average taxpayers?
It's interesting also, and it's funny when you hear Tim Geithner said they've been talking for 7 months. I mean, it has to go to the very end of the limit here. We have to wait because it really does affect us, and it affects us in many areas, including taxes, which is what you just brought up. It will affect the average taxpayer, Joyce. I mean, it just depends on how you define the average taxpayer. If the debt deal actually incorporates some type of tax increases, which I know is what the president wants to do, that could very well be closing up of certain loopholes, increasing deductions that we're allowed to take, I mean, increasing the limits for deductions, and also repealing potentially the Bush tax cuts as well. Now, the average tax...
I'm sorry, deductions like what? Like the mortgage interest rates?
That's
those
exactly
things?
Right. Mortgage interest rate, health care deductions might be affected, what we can deduct for medical expenses, things like that. And then plus when we talk about the average taxpayer, you know, right now they've always zeroed in on those people making about $200,000 a year. So that's what they consider to be the rich. You know, whether or not you call that rich, you call it average, you call it middle class or above middle class, that's kind of the limit where the Bush tax cuts were always kind of drawn. And that's where, the president is focusing on as well. He wants more revenues to pay down this deficit, and he wants to get that somehow by raising some taxes. So it will, in fact, the average American person will have some impact.
Well, how about some of these cuts? Everybody wants cuts, too. How about cutting military spending and education funding? Can we afford the potential consequences?
Right, and that's, first of all, I mean, don't work for the Pentagon, so I can't tell you the strategic, parts of that question and whether or not that puts us at any disadvantage or not. But I can tell you one thing, man. When you cut back on military spending, when you cut back on education, when you cut back on healthcare spending, construction spending, it affects jobs and it affects businesses and small businesses that rely on those markets to grow as well. So look, the fact is that if we can't afford it, we can't afford it, and that's fair enough. But pulling it back is going to affect all of us because it will have an impact on what's being spent. And remember, Joyce, the government is a big, big part of our overall economy.
Okay, so what about increasing the retirement age, pulling back on Medicare and Social Security benefits? I mean, could that be phased in, or do you just pull the rug from under people close to retirement?
Right. I don't think anybody's going to have the rug pulled out from them. I think what the government wants to do as part of any kind of a debt deal, and if they reduce the amount of payments, is to say, look, the people that should be getting the benefits should get the benefits, and the people that shouldn't don't need to. Meaning that, shall we increase the retirement age over a gradual period of time? That kind of thing could very well happen, and I think it's pretty well needed.
And it still remains to be seen what will happen with those programs for the poor.
And Joyce, if I can just say one quick thing, remember, this is about the debt ceiling, not about the budget. So we might just have an increase to the debt ceiling, and then we'll argue about these budget issues come September.
But the president wants both done at the same time, doesn't he?
He would, so we'll see if he gets his way or not.
That's why the fight continues. Gene Marks, thank you so much.
Thank you, Joyce.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
Take care.
All right, well,